Hi, I'm Justin Kirk. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can make this enemy death animation for this cow model that I've made. Now, this will work on any model, so it doesn't just work on the cow model. If you just put any model into this thing that I'm going to show you, you can actually make any model die like this. Before, I just had like little dots flying everywhere when he died, so this is a pretty big upgrade from that. But yeah, I'm going to be posting this cow model in the description of the video for free, so you can download it if you want to, and you're welcome to add it to your game or whatever you want to do with it. But yeah, anyway, let's get started, and we'll create a new visual effect graph. Now, oh, it didn't work. Okay, let me try again. Visual effect graph. Now, if you don't see visual effect graph when you go to right click, it's probably because you haven't imported it into your game. So if you go to window at the top and click package manager and change this drop down to Unity registry and type in visual effect, the visual effect graph should pop up, and then in the right here where it says remove, it should say install if you haven't installed it. After you install it, it should show up when you right click. We're just going to call this death effect, or yeah, you can just call it whatever you want to, it doesn't matter. So this is a visual effect graph. So if you double click on this, it will open and you get this cool little graph, and I'm just going to make it way big. All right, so if you're unfamiliar with the visual effect graph, basically it's pretty self-explanatory. So just read through what all the nodes do. So this is the start. So it's a constant spawn rate of 16 particles per second. The capacity is 32, so it can't have more than 32 particles. This is velocity, is like the speed at which the particles are going. This is the lifetime of how long the particles live, etc. Right? So you can really just read what these things are doing. If you want to add something to this graph, all you have to do is press the space bar. So if you press space here, and we just want this to be a single burst, and we're going to take the constant spawn rate and we're going to delete it. We don't want the constant spawn rate. So for this effect, we want a lot of particles to make up the effect. We're going to do 5,000. We're also going to change the capacity to 5,000. Because it's a burst, it only needs to be the same amount as the capacity. Sometimes it overlaps, so you could do 10,000 if you really want to. The visual effect graph uses your video card to do the drawing. It's very efficient, so you can get away with 10,000 particles without any problems at all. And 5,000 is kind of like a walk in the park for the visual effect graph. If you try to do that with the particle system and you try to run your game on mobile phone or something like that, you'll have problems. It's at the threshold of having problems at around 5,000. Anyway, so inside of the initialized particle, there's actually a method called conform to mesh. At the bottom, drag your depth effect onto the scene, which is like this hierarchy thing on the left, and then just click play so you can kind of see it. If you double click on it, we'll zoom right in on it. And you can see that this is just like a burst of particles right now. So we want this to conform. So there's 5,000 particles here. We want this to conform to a mesh. So if we click on this block here, set velocity random, and we press spacebar, we can type in the word mesh. And there's one that says set position mesh. And if you click on this, you can actually make it conform to a mesh. So what we're going to do is if we drag, so this is the evil cow alien that's attached to the video. You can download it for free. In the drop down for the cow alien, you could take the B surface mesh and drag it into this slot. And you can see that these particles now form to fit the mesh. Now, the cow is lying down, like he's horizontal. So we actually don't want that. So if you look at the bottom here, there's like a transform, and we're just going to try -90 because I already know that's the right thing. So usually I would do 90, -90. X-axis is going to be the one that flips it, I guess. And then Y is like, if you're in a top-down game anyway, it could be different for you. You should understand what angles are. That's pretty basic and straightforward. So now we already have this kind of thing happening, right? So we want this to float upwards, because when he dies, it's kind of like the soul is leaving the cow and going upwards towards the sky, right? So velocity is how fast it's moving. Now we do want it to be random as well. So we want it to be a number between 1 and maybe 10 for my game. Okay, so this is random. So some of the particles will only be going 1 and some of them will go 10. So that's why it separates and goes up like this. And it kind of is like he's disintegrating, right? This is really, really awesome. So then let me just move this up a little bit. So there's a lot of things you can do here. So I've got this cow smoke picture, which is a texture sheet. It's a sprite sheet, okay? I think I downloaded this from the internet somewhere. I'm going to post it in the link in the description of the video. I don't know where I got this, or I would reference the person who made this. I didn't make it. I don't know who made it. It's possible that it's like part of one of the assets I downloaded from the asset store and it was free or something. So I kind of feel bad just giving this away for free. But anyway, yeah, you can download it from the description of the video. So when you put this in the main texture, this is not going to work properly. So if you look really closely, you can see that because it's 4 pictures, it gets divided into 4. So what you need to do is if you go to the UV mode and you change it to a flip book, you can make this 2 by 2. And the reason being is there's 2 on the x-axis and 2 on the y-axis. So these are so each one of these things that plays will be a random picture of these 4. Okay, so now when you play it, it blows up into smoke. So these particles are too small. So let's make them larger. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna take this set size over life. And if you drag this whole graph to the right, and let me just move this so it's smaller. When you click on the individual things inside of the VFX graph, you can see that there's more options on the right here. And if you click set size over life, right now it's set to overwrite, which is really bad because that means any size that was set previously in the graph will be overwritten. So we don't want set size over life, we want multiply. So this will make it so that the size that it is for each particle will be multiplied by this graph, okay? So this is the lifetime of the particle. So this means that it will just be getting bigger until it's 0.5 of the size that it already is. So this isn't the graph that we want. This is the graph that we want instead. So I'm just gonna drag this way up. Way up. Maybe like... You could also click this and type in a number if you don't want to do it this way. And we'll just round it out a bit so it's not so right away it will become really large and then it will shrink. So like it's kind of like a cloud effect. So like it will get bigger immediately and then it will become smaller by the end of the time frame of the... So this isn't actually 1. This is the lifetime of the particle. So if it's 3 seconds, like if the lifetime is 3 seconds, this will actually be 3 and it's based on the lifetime. It's not based on this number. This number is just like part of the graph, right? So if we close out of this and we run it again, it's still kind of hard to see because the particles are too small. So we need to make the particles bigger before this happens. So if we click on set position mesh and we press a space bar, we can click set size and we want to do random again, right? So set size random. And we're going to put this below this because we want to set the position while the particles are small and then make them large after. So we're going to make this size between 1 and, oh shit, that's really big. Let me make it 0.1 and 3. I'm going to leave it this big for a little bit so you can see a problem. All these little puffs of smoke are facing the same direction. They're all facing upwards, which is kind of cool in some effects, like depending on what your particle is. I'm using a smoke cloud right now, so it doesn't make sense for all the smoke to be facing the same direction. They should be different. It's too uniform, right? So if you click on set size random that we just added and you press the space bar, you can type in set angle random. It doesn't matter what the order is for set size and set angle. So if it appears above it or below it, it doesn't matter. And we want to make that random on the Z axis only. So these other axes will affect, like the Z axis is like the actual rotation and these two are not required. So we're just going to do -360 to 360. And now you can see when these spawn, they're all random directions and it makes them look cooler. And you could even make them roll over time. So if you go into the update particle and you type in add angle, you could technically add a small angle to this and it might look cool. Let's see. Let's add a bigger angle so it's more apparent what's happening. I'm just going to get rid of the add angle. I don't think it needs to roll. I think it looks fine like this. I think that looks pretty cool. So, and in mine, it's not rolling, and this is going to make this take too long. So then there's some settings at the bottom here. So additive, there's like this blend mode, which changes the color of it. So if you change it to additive, the colors like for each of the particles add together. So if there's 2 particles on top of each other that are see-through, it will make them glow and have this like bright effect. That's pretty cool. Like for a death effect, it's okay. I'm just going to leave it as alpha because I'm going to change the color in the other settings. If you want it to go black, you can't use additive. So when he finishes dying, it turns to like black smoke and we want that. And if you change it to additive, you can't have that happen. It won't work. You can't make it black. Now we want to set this color over the lifetime. So I think I put a key here. So when you click at the bottom, it's the colors, and at the top, it's the alpha, like how visible it is. So the alpha can stay the same. So it fades in and fades out, and that's kind of normal. But we want this to be like a purple, and then we want to turn up the intensity. The intensity will make it glow. If you don't see glow when you're doing this, it means you need to turn on a global volume, which should come if you've made a project in the URP core, it should be there by default. And there should be a setting for bloom, which you have to enable. If you don't enable this, you won't see glow in your game. If this bloom is not here, you can click add override and then type in bloom and then add it. Okay, if you don't see this, all you have to do is add a global volume. It will automatically default to the global volume you add, providing one doesn't already exist. At the very top of the hierarchy, you could just try typing in global volume and see if you can find it first, because if you add one and there's already one, it will default to the first one that you added. Yeah, it should be there by default. Anyway, so then at the end of this, we want this to go black. So, and then we want it to be black right to the end. So let's save this. So see how it turns into like a burnt, charred kind of, I don't know. And then you could make this brighter even. You could, because it's pink, it's not really bright. Oh no, that's too much. That's way too much. Okay, so this is the first part of the effect. So then what we're going to do is we're going to add another particle system. So one of the other benefits of the visual effect graph over the particle system is that you can have multiple systems in the same thing and they'll trigger at the same time and you don't have to do any extra work. So in the particle system, you could have this as well, I guess, if you run them at the same time via code or something like that, but it doesn't do it by default. So let's right click and we're just going to click create node and we're going to add a system, and it's just going to be a simple particle system. Okay, so we want these particles to be coming out at the same time that, like, we want them to like appear and show up over top of everything, right? So we want these to be way more. So we're going to set the velocity of this second particle system to 25 and 5. And we want it to be a burst again. So this is a constant spawn rate. So we just want to delete this and we're just going to click here and we're going to do burst. And we'll set the count to 32 to match this. And we want these numbers to be high as well. So this is 25 to 5, just so you know, like, it doesn't matter what order you put these in. You could put the higher number on the top or the higher number on the bottom. It doesn't change anything. So let's see how this is going. So, oh, we need negative numbers. So let's do negative 15 and then we'll do positive 15 and then we'll see how that's working. So we don't want negative 15 in the y-axis, actually. We want maybe 5 to 25 in the y-axis. But for z and x, we're going to do negative 15 to 15. So if you click on the death effect, you can see these little arrows, right? And then in the top right corner, you can see what direction they are. So we want the particles to go upwards, right? But we don't want them to go downwards, because downwards you won't be able to see them. My game's a top-down game. Like, if I go into the game view, you can't really see it, but it's a top-down game. So we only want the particles to go upwards, and we want them to go in any direction around this. And so you have to do negative for that to work, because to the left, like, for example, this is x, right? So this is negative x over here. So you need to do negative x to positive x. Like, there has to be negative and positive, or else it will all go in one direction. So you can see that this kind of bursts everywhere. We might want it to start a little bit higher. So to make it start higher, there's a couple ways you could do this. So you can't just drag this up, right? Because then both effects will spawn higher. So we don't want that. We want this to start higher, right? So you could set position, and that would probably work. Let's see if that works. Hang on, set position. And we'll just make it like 5 on the y-axis. Yeah, that's a lot better. So it starts higher up in the torso. Let's just make it 8. Now, my scale in my game is really, really large, so 8 might be really high for you. You need to mess with these numbers. Just try to keep the ratio the same. Like, so if you're making this 8 and these are 25, if you have to make this number smaller, make all the, like, you have to do the ratio based on, like, your game and how your game is looking, right? So now that we're done this, we're just going to use the default particle. So not this one. This one is like the test particle that is not actually used in the game. But we're just going to make this... I'm tempted to use my fireball. That's probably what I did in my other game. You know what? I'll use my fireball. I've posted this in the description of the video. So if you want, you can use the fireball as well. You just have to download it. Everything I'm using in this will be downloaded. Like, not downloaded, pasted in the description of the video, so you can just go ahead and download it. We could make these additive if you want. These aren't going to be going black at all. There's not enough of them to really matter for the additive anyway. And then, so something else I want to do is set the scale. So oh, I didn't even set the size. So I need to set the size and the scale. So let's do that. So set size, and then set scale. Okay, so the size and the scale are different, okay? So the scale is like in each individual axis can be a different scale. So let's say you have a size of 10 and you've made Y 10. Well, Y will be 100 and these two will be 10, right? So scale is just like we want to stretch these particles and make them longer. And in order to do that, we need to have a scale, I guess. And then we're going to make these like 0.5 or even smaller. Okay, so this looks kind of stupid right now because you can see that they're kind of going like straight up and down. So what we want to do is at the bottom under orient face camera plane, we want to change this to along velocity. So they kind of go the direction that they're going. And then this needs to actually just be smaller. So maybe like 3 would be better. And this could actually be a random. So again, click on scale and change this to per component. And then we just want to, these can be 0.5 for the Z and the Y without any randomness, but the Y scale can be between 1 and 3 so that they're all different. So it makes them look cooler. And you could even make them go further if you want to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add gravity to them. So in the update particle, if you press the spacebar, you can type gravity and it will default to negative 9.81. You can change this however you like. The lower this number, like the more negative it is, the faster these particles will fall to the ground. This gives them a cool effect, like as they're going away, they kind of curve and fall to the ground instead of just going straight away. So that looks really cool. And this could even be maybe more like 12 or something. All right, so the last thing we need to do for this is, okay, so the size over life should be going on a downward slant. So it starts at 1 and it goes down to maybe, oh, it could go all the way down to 0 for this. So just a direct down size over life. And we, again, want this to multiply instead of overwriting. And then we need to make the size less. So let's make the size 0.5. Perfect. So that way, as they get away from the model, they start shrinking until they disappear. And you could even set these to the mesh as well if you wanted to. So you could set the position of these to the same mesh. That way they spawn on the outside of the mesh rather than appearing inside of it, like in the center. They're all spawning in the center. So when you press play or whatever, you can see them spawning in the middle, right? But we want them to be coming out of the edges of the mesh because that makes more sense. So let me go back to my cow model, and I'm just going to drag this B surface mesh into here. And then we want to just change this to surface. And then change the transform to negative 90 as well. So it has to match. Let's disable this and let's try that one more time. Hang on. Oh, this is vertex still. We want surface. There we go. That's better. Okay, so now so get rid of this set position because it's set to overwrite on the right here. Remember that if it's overwriting, anything that happens before it won't happen. So let's delete the set position that moved it up. And this actually makes them spawn on the surface, which is pretty cool. Now we want a color for them. So right now they're just white, which is kind of terrible. So let's make them start as like really bright. Let's see if that's better. Let's put another one, make this one white. Yeah, and I think the width of them is too large. So we just want to make these maybe 0.2 by 0.2. Oh yeah, that's looking pretty cool. Okay, and I think that this is just too bright. It needs to be less. So maybe like 2.7, and then this one can also be less, because white gets affected more by the bloom or whatever. It needs to be lower. When things are too small and you add, oh, you know what? We should set the velocity based on the direction that they spawn, so it doesn't like. There's ones that are spawning on the right side that are going the wrong direction. So instead of this velocity, let's do something else. Let's move this whole graph to the right. And then what we can do is if we right click over here, we can get the position. And we can drag this out here into a multiply node. And we can multiply the position by a vector 3. But let's just put this into the B node. And then we'll put another one here. They should be the opposite way. Oh no, that's right. So this one goes into the top. Okay, so then they're going the direction that they spawned instead of... So wherever they spawn, they'll be going that direction. And then let's make more of them. Let's make this 100 and 100 because we just did all this work on them, so there should be more of them. Let's make 1,000. I'm not gonna leave it at 1,000, but I just want to see what it looks like to see if there's like way more of them, what happens. Okay, all right, so we want to make this more. So we want to make it so it goes further away. So right now this isn't a random because these two are the same. So we want to multiply these. So we're going to add a vector 3 and we're going to multiply this here. So this is the max distance. So we want this to be like 5, 5, and 5, right? And then for this one, the reason we're using a vector 3, I'm just Control-C, Control-V to copy that, by the way, is because we don't want this going in the negative. So it could be between 0 and 5, but these ones we want to be -5. No, we don't. Okay, so we don't want it to be -5 because that will cause it to go backwards. So if it spawns on the right side, we want it to only be going outwards. So let's get rid of this altogether. They can just be going 1, 1, 1, and then I think that's too much. So let me just lower it. Okay, so I've added this extra effect that wasn't in the demo at the beginning. Like maybe just 0, I don't know. Wow, that's looking pretty sweet. Okay, so then we don't even need this at all because... Oh, because we have to get the position. But I don't know. We don't need this part at all. We could just drag this into here. And then change this to 0. Yeah. Alright guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. It really means a lot to me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I also have a Discord that's running now, so if you guys want, you can join my Discord. I have people that are like giving me models and helping work on the game. You're welcome to help work on my game if you want to. If anyone contributes a significant amount to the game, they'll obviously, if the game ever makes profit, there'll be financial compensation for that. And I have an Instagram and a Twitter as well. Those are going to be both linked in the description of the video as well. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.